All right, it is, what week are we in the NFL season here? Six?
Six.
Week six of the NFL season. Big Ticket is not here today, but we do have Mclovin. And
Still here.
First going off into a comment question, really, from Yee Nation. That's Yee, Y-E-E, Yee, Y-E-E, Nation.
Yee Nation.
Yee Nation.
Oh, boy.
And Yee Nation wants to know our thoughts on Tannehill and the Miami organization as a whole.
Well, Ryan Tannehill has had a terrible year thus far. He's had many different chances. He's a first-round draft pick. He has terrible accuracy. He throws the ball away. He doesn't make good decisions. Granted, the offensive line, it hasn't always been top-notch. That's why they brought in a guy like Adam Gase, who works extremely well with quarterbacks. That's why it's such a surprise right now why he's been so unsuccessful as a quarterback. The Dolphins are just a bad football team. I didn't think they were going to be this bad. I knew there'd be some growing pains with any new head coach, but they're really not an opponent to anybody. They really haven't shown up for any game. They just about beat the Browns in overtime, who's a terrible football team. Ryan Tannehill maybe has the doors and the windows are actually closing on Ryan Tannehill and what they're going to do. I don't think if he can't get it together, I think then they might have to look elsewhere to replace a Ryan Tannehill. I don't think he's going to be what everyone thought he was going to be. He's not even a decent starter at this point in time in his career. But they do have some time to try to rekindle and maybe start winning some games towards the end of the season. But as far as I'm concerned, Ryan Tannehill is a bust thus far.
What about the organization as a whole?
Well, Miami Dolphins, they've had many different coaches come through there in the past 5-10 years. They really haven't had a good team since Dan Marino left. I know they did win the division back in 2008 when Brady went down with an ACL. But other than that,
won over a tiebreaker.
Yeah, and I think that's when they had Ricky Williams and who's the other running back they had?
I don't know.
They had another good running back down there.
But they definitely had Olindo Mare.
The organization, I know they have an owner that wants to win. I know they have a head coach that wants to win.
Mickey,
I know they have an offensive staff and a defensive staff that wants to win. Basically, their running back situation is in with Foster and Adai or Ajayi or whatever the hell his name is. They have good receivers, very talented receivers. They have a tight end who can't stay on the field. Their defense is subpar. They have some great names and great talents on the defensive line, but other than that, I think the Miami Dolphins thought that they had turned the corner coming into this year with a new head coach, but the Dolphins are still the Dolphins.
All right, so let's go into news and notes. Bowles takes all the blame for Jets' skid. During their 3-game losing streak, the Jets have been outscored 37-7 in the second half, sparking criticism that Coach Todd Bowles hasn't made the proper adjustments.
Well, I think we talked a little about this last week. The Jets, unfortunately, have dug a hole in all the games that they've played. They really haven't had a chance to have the lead. They haven't capitalized on some opportunities. They're really not getting to a flow as an offense as they did early on in the season, getting Forte involved, whether it's through carries or passes out of the backfield. Decker, he just put on IR, so he's done for the year. That's going to hurt. Brandon Marshall's dealt with some injuries. Their defense, Revis isn't Revis. They have been, can't get off the field on third down, can't force turnovers, and basically no one's playing well. And when everyone's, down at one point in time, you're not going to win football games, and you're going to be getting, annihilated, which is pretty much what happened for the New York Jets. Unfortunately, with Decker going down, that's one of their key guys. is gonna have to step up in order to replace Decker and figure out how to way to get Forte back in the offense. And I think that's, when he's getting 20, 25 carries a game and 100 yards, they win the game. When he's only getting 40 yards or 35 yards, they're being forced into pass. And we've seen Fitzpatrick, who has struggled this year with the interceptions and not being consistent. So I think the Jets are in a bad spot right now, and unless they turn around, it's only going to get worse.
Rams cornerback Johnson helped off field with ankle injury. Tremaine Johnson, the Rams' top cornerback, had to be carted to the locker room after suffering a right ankle injury late in Sunday's loss to the Bills.
That's going to hurt him. I was actually watching this game, and that's a big loss for LA on their back end. Their defensive backs, their secondary. Their defensive line is still their best aspect of that defense, but losing him is going to be a big deal.
Broncos expect Kubiak to leave hospital Monday. Broncos coach Gary Kubiak was set to be released from a Denver area hospital Monday after being diagnosed with what the team called a, quote, complex migraine condition. And he's actually out. He is not going to coach the team.
But he's not coaching, right?
Correct.
I think Joe D. Camillus, the special teams coordinator, is going to step in. Denver plays tomorrow night. They're at San Diego. They're coming off a bad loss to Atlanta. Let's see how they can rebound. I don't know if Simeon's healthy or they're going to still go with Paxton Lynch. Atlanta really jumped all over him, so they never really had a shot to get the running game going. And then their defense was always on the back of their heels. You got to give Atlanta a lot of credit for coming into a place like Denver, which is difficult to win and to get a W. The Broncos are still tied for first at 4-1. I think the San Diego game, I think they'll win. I'm not sure how big it will be, but San Diego is imploding before our own eyes with another loss in the fourth quarter with a lead. But I think this guy D. Camillus will step in, and too bad that Kubiak can't coach. Hopefully he gets better. But I still think the Denver Broncos, with or without him, will win against San Diego.
Giants cornerbacks Apple, Rogers, Cromartie injured. Giants cornerback Eli Apple and Dominique Rogers-Cromartie left Sunday's game against the Packers with groin injuries.
They weren't really a factor. No one was really a factor on the Giants. They just stuck around. They never really played well in that game at all. Anytime you lose two key pieces of the secondary, especially these days with how the receivers pretty much, the defense can't do anything as far as covering these guys. It's going to be that much more difficult for, the Giants to come back. I don't know the actual status of these two guys going forward, but it's certainly not going to help their defense.
Jones, Romo is still Cowboys' number one quarterback. Despite Dak Prescott's 4-1 record as a Cowboys signal caller, Jerry Jones said Tony Romo is still the, quote, number one quarterback and is, quote, definitely on schedule to return and take over those duties.
Yeah, this is a very similar situation to what New England fans saw back in 2001 with Drew Bledsoe, who was a quarterback, franchise quarterback. He took the team to the Super Bowl, 4 years prior. It was his team. He got Mo Lewis hit him, and he's still feeling that hit to this day. And then this no-name guy named Tom Brady comes in, and the rest is history, as they say. So Dak Prescott has done a hell of a job. They're 4-1. The thing about it is, I'm from the old school where if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think Tony Romo is definitely the quarterback. He was the number one guy going into the season. He went down again. The thing is that if you put Romo in there and then he gets hurt again, you have a guy that can come back and picked up where he left off. I don't think they should play Tony Romo, but that's just me. I think Jerry Jones and the team, they love Tony Romo for some reason. He still is a very talented quarterback, but at the same time, he's been injury prone. Basically, any hit he's going to be down again. So, me personally, I'd play Dak Prescott. Ezekiel Elliott's been a top-notch guy. He had a big game against Cincinnati last week. Des Bryant should be back soon. They had Cole Beasley and the other Williams kid. So, and that offensive line is top-notch. So, if he does come back, we'll see how well he plays. But if they do play him and he gets hurt, they can just go back to Prescott, who's playing extremely well.
Harbaugh on OC Trestman firing. Quote, "It's my call." The Ravens fired offensive coordinator Mark Trestman and replaced him with Marty Mornwig. The team announced the change on Monday, less than 24 hours after a tough home loss to the Redskins.
Well, if we remember back, when the Baltimore did the same thing when they won the Super Bowl, is that they got rid of their offense coordinator. I forgot who it was, but then they put Jim Caldwell in there and they won the Super Bowl. I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are that terrible of a team. It's difficult when you just fire offensive coordinator. I know Mark Trestman really, ever since he came over from the CFL and took the head coaching job with the Bears and then moved on to Baltimore. It's tough for him. Now he's out of football unless someone else picks him up. But Marty Morningwig, as we know, was a head coach with the Detroit Lions when they were terrible. We'll see what happens. They still have a good quarterback in Flacco. They have some Mike Wallace. They have a deep receiving threat. Their running backs have kind of been up in the air with the injuries. So they have to win the thing that Baltimore has to really zone in on is winning their conference games and their divisional games. And they may have a shot at getting a wild card, but they got to start winning early before you know it. I mean, we're in week 6, and it just seems like we just started. So the NFL weeks go by extremely fast, and I think Pittsburgh's going to run away with that division. The way Cincinnati played last week, they looked terrible. So I think it's Pittsburgh's division to lose, and then Baltimore's going to have to fight with Cincinnati for maybe a wild card spot.
49ers deciding between quarterbacks, Gabbert, Kaepernick. San Francisco 49ers coach Chip Kelly said the staff is deciding between Blaine Gabbert and Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. And the updated thing, I think I read somewhere today that Kaepernick is starting.
Kaepernick is starting, yes, he is. Well, you got to look at it like Kaepernick, was a backup. He started all this garbage with the sitting for the national anthem or not standing. Basically, Blaine Gabbert was a terrible quarterback coming in. He finished last year pretty well, so that's why he got the starting position this year. But naming Blaine Gabbert the starter in the beginning of the year really means that Chip Kelly didn't want any part of Colin Kaepernick. Now kind of the way Gabbert's been playing, which is absolutely terrible, has kind of forced his hand into playing Kaepernick, who really, I think in his last 10 games, he's 2-8 as a starter. They're going into a hostile environment, into the Bills. I don't think they're going to win that game. And I think it's only going to get worse for San Francisco 49ers. But Colin Kaepernick, unless he can do the same thing when he relieved Alex Smith, 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I don't see how he's just going to come out on the field and be the guy they paid him to be. I know they paid him $11.6 million this year, and we'll see what happens for next year. But I think could be the last time San Francisco fans see Colin Kaepernick in a 49ers jersey.
Ginsburg. Kaepernick protests are, quote, really dumb. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not a believer in protesting by sitting or kneeling during the national anthem.
Is that a female?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with her. I don't really agree with many females, but it's a joke. I think we've beat this horse pretty to a pulp already, but people are talking about it, and that's the only thing he cares about. This racial oppression. I don't even feel like getting into it, but he was raised by 2 white parents, so I don't know what kind of oppression he ever had to deal with. He just got paid $11.3 million. So all his sitting or kneeling is a bunch of garbage. And now let's see what he can do on Sunday. So I agree with Mrs. Ginsburg.
Eagles. Key fumble should have been dead ball. Eagles coach Doug Pederson says Ryan Matthews' fumble Sunday should have been ruled a dead ball, and as Jason Kelsey touched the ball while out of bounds.
I didn't see the play. Basically, they got beat by a terrible team in the Lions. Game should have never come down to a play like that. I know they spotted Detroit a decent amount of points, and they ended up coming back, but then Detroit kicked a field goal. I think Philly is you can relax on Philly a little bit right now. They're not world beaters. Carson Wentz is not Joe Montana. I think Dak Prescott has had a better year than Carson Wentz, in my opinion.
So Skip Bayless agrees with you.
Sure. Okay, good.
And what's his face? Sterling Sharp does not.
Sterling Sharp is a piece of shit. So, Philly, they're 4-1 now or 3-1?
3-1.
3-1. Dallas is 4-1. Should be
a fight to the finish.
A fight to the finish, and we'll see what they're made of. But the reason they lost that game, obviously, Philly's defense didn't come to play. Their defense needs to step up like the first 3 games in order for them to win games, and if they're allowing points within the 20s and the 30s, it's going to be difficult for them to win games.
Buccaneers put running back Sims on IR with knee injury. The Buccaneers put running back Charles Sims on injured reserve before taking on the Panthers Monday.
This guy's been up and down as far as injury goes. He's a good player, but he can't stay healthy. It's unfortunate to see him on IR, and they'll go forward. I didn't see much of the Monday night game. It was a terrible game to watch, but they beat a lonely Panthers team, so I don't think the Bucs have a shot at anything either this year.
Broncos claim Cooper off waivers from Patriots. Former first-round draft pick Jonathan Cooper, waived by the New England Patriots on Saturday, was claimed by the Cleveland Browns on Monday.
Cooper came over in which trade?
The what's his face to Arizona?
Jones.
Yeah, Chandler Jones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously Cooper didn't fit in for some reason in New England. He still has great talent, and you said the Broncos picked him up, right?
The Browns picked him up.
Oh, the Browns. I think it's the Broncos.
No, the Browns.
Good for him. He still has a job. I mean, he's not going to a winning team, so.
Yep. Ex-Panther Ben Wikir to Dolphins on waivers. Bené Ben Wikir, who was released by the Carolina Panthers last week, was awarded to the Miami Dolphins on waivers Monday.
I don't really know much about him, but hopefully he can help a team that's in dire need of a win down in Miami.
Okay, let's see what else we got. Vikes add, quote, jacked up veteran Long, Smith to IR. Former number 1 overall pick Jake Long has been signed by the Minnesota Vikings on Tuesday to bolster the team's depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this guy Jake Long's first overall pick out of Michigan a little while ago, Pro Bowler. Minnesota is the only undefeated team right now. I think he'll definitely help that offensive line for sure. They're really clicking on all cylinders. Minnesota's defense is really, really good. I have to admit, I wasn't a big fan of Stan Bradford coming in. He's done extremely well. Stephon Diggs and Adrian Peterson, and who's been down, and Matt Asiata, who's stepped up. Their tight ends. I have them on my fantasy team. Kyle Rudolph has done a great job. I think you got to give a lot of credit to the head coach there, and they had 2 big injuries to their quarterback and their running back, and they're still undefeated. Minnesota is a good football team, and I think they're strong, and most importantly, they're mentally tough. They're not going to let little things distract them. And I think, sky's the limit for a team like this.
NFL upholds 10-game ban for Eagles Johnson. Eagles offensive tackle Lane Johnson will miss the next 10 weeks after his suspension was upheld by the NFL.
Yeah, I saw this. I know he played against Detroit last week, but 10-game suspension's not. That's going to hurt both the team and him. That sucks, but it tells you that you can't cheat and you can't put illegal substances in your body. it's not a fair playing field, so he got what he deserved.
Jones, MRI shows Romo's vertebrae has healed. On Tuesday, Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones said an MRI revealed Tony Romo's fractured vertebrae has healed. He did not say when Romo will return to game action.
Well, I think the Dallas Cowboys really have, for all the years that they drafted poorly, this year they drafted extremely well. To get a guy like Dak Prescott when they got him, obviously Ezekiel Elliott, what was it, second or third overall pick. They've done a great job, and these guys are playing well, and the offensive line, was really playing well. Their defense is playing extremely well as well. I mean, basically, this Dallas Cowboy team is really a good football team from top to bottom across the board. Usually when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, there's always something wrong with either the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball. They're clicking on all cylinders. I think Dallas is going to be a team to be reckoned with Tony Romo, or they actually did a great job of finding a legitimate backup this year, which they've kind of screwed themselves in the past. And, I think, like I said, what's going to happen is Romo will play, and then if he does get hurt, they know they have a guy that can step in and win games.
Troubled NFL defensive end Hardy to pursue MMA career. Greg Hardy, the free agent defensive end who was arrested last month on a cocaine possession charge, has decided to pursue a career in mixed martial arts.
Unless he has a background in jiu-jitsu or whatever they call it, taekwondo or whatever that garbage is. I hope he does have some backgrounds, because those guys they're going to whoop his ass. No matter how big and how strong he is, if they don't know the technical aspects of MMA fighting, he's going to be in for a long night whenever he starts. I think he's more doing this just for the headlines. I don't think he's going to be successful. He's a knucklehead. He's an idiot. He's really made some poor decisions and really hasn't been accountable or stepped up and been a man about the whole thing. So I hope he gets his ass beat.
Heyward's games played streak to end at 85. Cameron Heyward will miss his first NFL game because of a hamstring injury, ending the Steelers' defensive end streak of 85 straight games played.
Well, it's too bad. I mean, for a guy on the defensive side of the ball to have played 85 games in a row is pretty good. I had the pleasure of, Justin Smith was a guy with the San Francisco 49ers who never missed a game, never missed a snap. He did that for, I don't know how many games, I think it was over 100. So just for a guy to play, 16 games and, suit up for all 16 and being a factor in all 16. So it's difficult when you lose a guy like that, but, he'll get better. He'll get back on the field. Panthers
unconcerned Newton rode scooter. Panthers coach Ron Rivera laughed when asked about Cam Newton riding a scooter Monday without a helmet in Charlotte. Quote, "The bottom line is he's an adult. We'll go from there," Rivera said.
Is he an adult? I mean, I think that we could argue that. Cam Newton, talented as anybody in the league, but just an idiot. Really, like we talked about last week, is a great winner. When he's down, he acts like a child. But now that the Panthers are 1-4, they need Cam Newton to come back. And the fact of the matter, if he's riding a scooter, whatever speed he's going, he needs to just not ride a scooter when you're coming off of a head injury to get on operating a vehicle, whether it's a scooter, a car, or whatever, or a motorcycle without a helmet. Really shows you how smart the guy is.
In need of running back, Lions bring on veteran Forsett. The Detroit Lions signed running back Justin Forsett on Tuesday, adding a veteran presence to their backfield.
Yeah, they had, I think Forsett's going to help them out. He'll be a change-up back. He's really fast. And I think he's been a proven guy in the NFL, and I think if you get the ball in his hands, he's going to help that team win.
Sources: Giants add ex-Rams CB Sensabaugh. The Giants agreed to a one-year deal with cornerback Cody Sensabaugh, who was released by the Rams last week, sources told ESPN.
Well, they obviously, with the two guys going down, they're going to need to find somebody. Usually, it's very difficult to find a corner that in week 6 or week 7 of the NFL who has value, but if there's anyone off the street that could come in and help, it'd be that guy.
Dolphins make big changes to struggling O-line. The Dolphins, after giving up 11 sacks in 2 games, made changes to the offensive line through a series of moves Tuesday.
Yeah, they need. They need a lot of help down there, and if it's the offensive line, then that's a good place to start. Basically, your offensive line is going to dictate your running game and the passing game because they're going to allow Tannehill as much time as they want him to have to get the ball out. But the offensive line is just another one of their problems that they need to address.
Tight end Bennett rips Cutler, former Bears teammates. Martellus Bennett has some strong opinions about his time with the Bears, saying, quote, "Everybody knows Jay Cutler isn't the leader."
I think Belichick probably had a talk with him or someone did. Bennett needs to worry about what he needs to worry about, and that's the New England Patriots, and that's being so far this season arguably the MVP on the team on the offensive side of the ball. He had a great week last week, 3 touchdowns with him and Gronk. I mean, it's almost an unstoppable combination. I think it's I think we talked about this article last year, same thing, and he needs to let it go. His days in Chicago are over. Obviously, he feels that Cutler's not a leader, but how is that going to get you ready for Cincinnati and worrying about this upcoming game? It doesn't affect him. It doesn't affect the team. I mean, I don't agree with him coming out and saying something like that.
Steelers add Carlos Williams to practice squad. Former Bills running back Carlos Williams is back in the NFL. He signed with the Steelers to join their practice squad.
Okay, great.
Jets Decker to IR will have shoulder surgery. Jets receiver Eric Decker, who has missed the past 2 games with a partially torn rotator cuff, has been placed on injured reserve. He will have season-ending surgery.
What are you doing?
Season-ending surgery.
No.
It's my shoe.
Oh.
What do you think I was doing?
I don't know.
Okay, it's my shoe.
Okay. Footloose.
Yeah. What, am I hitting you?
No, it's just annoying.
All right, sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry.
It's my shoe.
Someone on the IR. What was the question?
Decker. It's not a question.
Yeah.
It was a statement.
That's going to be a big loss. Decker is really a reliable receiver, good hands. Has a lot of great receiving skills, and to see him go down is really, really, really going to hurt the New York Jets.
Redskins T.E. Reed evaluated for concussion. Washington Redskins tight end Jordan Reed is being evaluated for a concussion.
I guess Winnie.
Doesn't like Jordan Reed.
He's a top. If he's not a top 3 tight end in the league, I think he's a really great player, and I don't know why Winnie was barking right now.
I think the UPS guy came and gave me some Amazon shit.
Winnie, relax.
Jordan Reed will come back.
Yeah, no, it's just a concussion. He'll be fine. Winnie.
Anyway, Lions Ngata could miss 2 to 3 weeks, source says. Lions defensive tackle Haloti Ngata might miss 2 to 3 weeks with a shoulder injury, for which he is still undergoing tests, a source confirmed to ESPN.
This guy used to play for, he's a huge man, defensive tackle. He was with Baltimore, now he's with Detroit. They need him. He anchors the middle of that line. He's a big man, very, very strong. And they need, if he misses 2 weeks, okay, but he can't miss anything more than that, or Detroit's going to, have less of a chance of having a good defense.
Bengals running back Jeremy Hill. Last game versus Patriots was, quote, not fun. The Bengals, coming off a great September in 2014, were humbled at Gillette Stadium that October. They certainly don't want to repeat.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was a believer in Cincinnati. I thought they were going to go in and really play hard against Dallas, and they never even showed up. They were terrible. They should have never gotten off the bus. It's not going to get any better for them going to New England with Tom Brady's first home game back since the suspension. I think it's going to be another long game for them. They're going to try to see what Buffalo did, but Buffalo's playing against a third-string quarterback. It's not fun to get your ass beat, but if Cincinnati plays the way they did, it's going to be even worse than last year.
Doctor, Bills Watkins doesn't need surgery. Bills wide receiver Sammy Watkins does not need surgery on his foot, according to a specialist.
Well, this Sammy Watkins is always hurt. It's just every single year. If he doesn't need surgery, they'll try to, push him to get back earlier. The Bills now are 3-2. Three pretty good wins in a row. They beat a good Ram team on the road. I think they play fine without Watkins. I mean, they've won games without him. But if he is healthy and he can't come back and contribute to the Bills, then I think they'll allow him to do so.
Ron Rivera. Some of Panthers' best players are, quote, pressing. Panthers coach Ron Rivera had no trouble with his team's effort in the loss to the Bucs, but did say some players, quote, maybe were not disciplined enough.
Correct. He's right. Carolina was a team that we thought were just going to come into the season and walk away with that NFC South division title, and really they've been beat pretty good by a lot of different teams. They're right now they're in a bad state of affairs. They're 1-4. They got beat by Tampa Bay at home. Even with Derek Anderson, I mean, that's still a terrible loss. Jonathan Stewart's been down. I mean, Greg Olsen hasn't been as effective. They don't have Newman in the secondary there, Norman in the secondary there. So they're in. They got to be questioning themselves, and they should be putting pressure on themselves because they need to start winning games.
All right, let's go into last week. Now, we had some issues with some people not getting in their picks on time. I made a video acknowledging that fact. So, again, here's how this is going to go. There were two people, ex-Captain Erroneous X and C&J Sports Cards, that were disqualified last week for not putting their picks in on time. Since I have given them a loss for each of the games, however, C&J Sports Cards at the time was 27-35, was 20-27. And ex-Captain Erroneous X, when I told him he was disqualified, didn't even put his picks in for last week, obviously. So those two are moved to another division called the Disqualified Division, and we're going to start with them for this week. So it's between them to see who wins the Disqualified Division, ex-Captain Erroneous X and C&J.
Backhand compliments if they win that. You don't sweat too much for a fat broad. Yeah.
C&J Sports Cards and ex-Captain Erroneous X, you're in your own division called Disqualified Division. But let's go into last week. CV Gunn went 8-7. He's now 36-26. No, my bad. CV Gunn went 8-6. He is now 44-32. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. went 6-8. He is now 43-33. Yes to Anything That Is Cool Awesome went 9-5. He is 48-28. And Vadix went 9-5. He is 40-36. So the updated standings there we have in first place. Yes to Anything That Is Cool Awesome at 48-28. In second place, we have CV Gunn at 44-32. In third place, we have Vadix at 40-36. He is 40-36. He is 8 games out. CV Gunn is 4 games out. And then in last place, we have Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Oh, I'm an idiot. Let me go over these standings again. Fucking, what is wrong with me? Number 1. Yes to Anything That Is Cool Awesome at 48-28. Number 2, CV Gunn at 44-32, 4 games out. Third place is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady at 43-33, 5 games out. And then in last place we have Vadix at 40-36, who is 8 games out. So that's the main division. Okay. And then we have the Disqualified Division between ex-Captain Erroneous X and C&J Sports Cards. And Steve Goldman, if you're watching, if you want to join the Disqualified Division, you're more than welcome to. So there'd be a 3-team division there. And then the Better Late Than Never Division, we have Cali Guy, who went 7-7 last week, who is now 28-33. and Andy Pichardo, who went 8-6, who is now 36-25. He has an 8-game lead over Cali Guy for the Better Late Than Never division. So there's 3 divisions: Better Late Than Never, the original division, and the disqualified division. And then last week, I won the week again with an 11-3 record.
That's pretty good. I think that's probably been your best week.
Well, the previous week I won 11-4, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11-3.
It's you.
48-28 on the season. Season high 20 games over 500.
We were counting them out.
Yep. And then Mike O'Keefe for the big ticket went 10-4. He is now tied him at 48-28. And then Mclovin here went 9-5, one of his worst weeks of the season.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
I actually went 9-7 week 3, but 9-5. He's now 49-27, a slim 1-game lead.
But still in first place.
Still in first place.
And throughout everyone, I'm in first place throughout.
49-27. Yes, you have a 1-game lead over Yes to Anything That Is Cool Awesome. Okay. Also at 48-28.
So I beat those guys last year too.
Yeah, you won the whole thing. Yeah. Now here's the deal. Nobody wins a gift card. Everybody tied Mclovin and lost to the big ticket and myself. But that's the updated standings. Now, an off week for Mclovin on the spreads.
7-6-1. Still on the plus side. Still won and didn't lose. That brings me down to 62% against the spread, which is still out of this world. I know I was in contact with guy Brady. Is there a
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr.?
Hold on, let me check my email. Matthew Varnum.
Okay, Matthew Varnum.
Matthew Varnum has been the first one to actually take the bull by the horns and use my free information. So, Matthew Varnum, good for you. Got you some wins last week, and we're going to get you more this week.
So let's go right into the scoreboard. We have Broncos at Chargers for the Thursday night game. Denver on the road is favored by 3.
I'm taking San Diego +3.
So San Diego +3. So you're taking... Well, all right, and then Sunday, the 49ers are in Buffalo. Buffalo's favored by 7.5.
Buffalo -7.5.
Okay, then we have the Eagles in Washington. Philadelphia on the road is favored by 2.5.
Oh, I'm going to take Washington +2.5.
Okay. Then we have Cleveland in Tennessee. Tennessee's at home, favored by 7.
What a terrible. Tennessee -7.
Okay, then we have Baltimore in New York against the Giants. The Giants at home are favored by 3.
Baltimore +3.
Okay, then we have the Panthers in New Orleans. Carolina on the road is favored by 3.
New Orleans +3.
Okay, then we have the Jaguars in Chicago. Chicago at home is favored by 2.5.
Jags +2.5.
Okay, that's what I would have taken. Rams in Detroit. Detroit at home favored by 3.5.
Rams +3.5.
Okay, then we have the Steelers in Miami. Pittsburgh on the road favored by 7.5.
Pittsburgh -7.5.
Okay, then we have Cincinnati in New England. New England at home favored by 8.5.
Cincinnati +8.5.
Okay, then we have the 405 game. The only 405 game.
There's only one 405 game?
Yeah,
no
we
shit.
have Kansas City in Oakland. It's even.
Oakland.
Okay. Then we have Atlanta in Seattle for 425. Seattle at home favored by 6.5.
Ooh, Atlanta +6.5.
Yep. Then we have Cowboys in Green Bay. Green Bay at home favored by 4.5.
Cowboys +4.5.
Okay. Then we, at the 8:30 Sunday night game, Indianapolis in Houston. Houston at home favored by 3.
Indianapolis +3.
And then the Monday night game, we have New York Jets in Arizona. Arizona at home favored by 7.5.
Jets +7.5.
All right. And the people with the teams with buys are Minnesota and Tampa. So let's go right into our picks. Okay.
So what's happening? What's gonna?
Well, see if the big ticket is available to just phone in and do his picks with us.
Okay.
Call him right now. See if he's available.
I don't.
No.
This is what we'll do. I'll text him, and I'll have, because he still has till tomorrow to get his picks in.
Correct.
So if he's gonna we'll get his picks before Thursday.
Before Thursday night?
Before Thursday. We'll get him tomorrow.
We'll have to upload it somehow. That way people know that he actually got his picks in early.
Well, we're competing against him. So if he doesn't, then
he's disqualified.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're not going to give him, so whatever it is, we're going to be the people, in charge of that.
Sure.
We're not going to let him change picks or anything. That doesn't fly with me.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to competition. So we'll make sure to get the big ticket.
All right. So let's go. We got. Let me go all the way back up to the top. We got Denver against San Diego.
Denver.
Yeah, Denver. Okay, then we got 49ers and the Bills.
Bills.
Yep, I'm also taking the Bills. Okay. Then we got Eagles, Redskins.
Washington.
Taking Philly. Pat has Washington. Okay. Then we got Browns, Titans.
Titans.
Taking Tennessee. Then we have Ravens, Giants.
Whew. That's gonna be tight. Giants.
Taking the Ravens.
Oh boy.
So Baltimore for Andy, and then the Giants for Pat. Then we got Panthers, Saints.
Saints.
Yeah. Then I'm going to take Jaguars, Bears.
Jags.
I'm also taking the Jags. Rams, Lions.
Rams.
Yep. Steelers, Dolphins.
Steelers.
Yep. Then we got Bengals, Patriots.
Patriots.
Yep. Chiefs, Raiders.
Raiders.
Yep. Falcons, Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Taking Atlanta.
Nice. Good
and
for
you're
you.
going to take Seahawks for Pat. And then Cowboys, Packers.
Packers.
They're in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's going to be a close one.
It's going to be close, I'm going to have to go with Green Bay.
Is that the Sunday night game?
No.
Oh.
Sunday night game is gay. Indianapolis against Houston.
Oh, come on. That's such a terrible...
So who do you got that one?
I don't know. So bad. Give me Indianapolis.
I'm also taking them. And then Jets, Cardinals.
Cardinals are terrible. That's another bad game. Against the Jets, though. Do we know if Carson Palmer...
He's probably playing.
Probably. I'll take the Cardinals then.
I'm also taking him. So the only games that we differ on are the Eagles-Redskins game, the Baltimore Giants game, and the Atlanta game. 3 games. So I either am in first place next week, or I'm a game or 2 out, or 3 out, worst case, or 4 out, worst case.
Yeah, well...
So now we get to our time, the end of the show tradition.
My shout out to my dad. My father said, "Does the EDP 445? Does he ever finish a sentence without the F bomb or the N bomb?"
No, he does not. And that's why I love him. So here we go. EDP 445. I'm calling him right now. Let's see what we got going on.
Hey, what up, man? What's poppin'?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
Shit, man. I just lady nigga hanging out, chilling. What's going down?
So we're at the end of the show, like we always are when you come on to give us your picks of the week. Let's start with the first, the upset pick of the week. What's the game that you got the upset on?
Let's see here. I'm looking on the NFL mobile app. The upset of the week, I got I don't think it's really an upset, but shit, I got the Falcons over the Seahawks, man.
I picked the Falcons over the Seahawks. It's one of the games I was going to ask you about. Mclovin over here picked the Seahawks, but I'm taking Atlanta. So good, great pick there. And then we got let's see, another game I want to ask you about now. I'm going to save this one for the last game. because I know it's going to be a touchy subject. But first game up on the docket, we got Baltimore against the Giants. Let's see which team you got. Baltimore is playing at New York.
Oh, man, it really doesn't fucking matter where the fuck you're playing at, dude. Like, Baltimore is whooping the fuck out the Giants. The Giants ain't shit, dude. Seriously, man.
I also picked the I also picked the Baltimore Ravens. So me and EDP right now are 2-0 against Mclovin with our picks. And then we got the last game. We already talked about Atlanta, obviously. I picked Atlanta, so did you. But here's the last game, man. I picked it's the Eagles against the Redskins in Washington, and I picked.
We know who he's going to pick.
Well, no, he picked. Did you pick Detroit last week, or did you pick the Eagles? I think you picked Detroit.
No, I picked Detroit, dude.
Yeah, you did. He did. He called it too.
I don't.
And he's talking about a trap game and everything else, and sure enough, it was. He called it right. So, if you had to pick between the Eagles and the Redskins, who do you got?
I know it's weird for me to sound positive, but I got the Eagles whooping this team's fucking ass, dude. Like, you know what I mean? I think it'll fucking be a lot of goddamn heat, a lot of fucking tension. Unfortunately, I think Deshaun Jackson will fuck us up the ass for probably 3 70-yard bombs and shit. Oh, excuse me, guys. Oh, shit. Oh, man, sometimes he's fucked my big ass. But, yeah, man, I got the Eagles, man. I got the Eagles getting after Kirk Cousins' ass. Our right tackle is out, Lane Johnson, so they got Haloti Ngata starting.
sounds like Nasi what's his name? Nasi Asamoah? Nadi Asamoah, yeah. I remember that video you made when you pronounced his name like 5 different ways and was talking shit about him. Shit was hilarious. Shit was hilarious. All right, man. So me and you are 3. Every team I picked against Mclovin here that we differed, me and you were on the same page. We got the Eagles, we got the Ravens, and we got the Falcons. So let's see what's popping there. And then remember, the 6th of November, we're going to be for all you guys out there watching the show, we are going to be in East Rutherford at Giant Stadium. Eagles and Giants, EDP is going to be there. It's going to be a good fucking time.
Great game.
Great game. So, EDP, I appreciate you coming on the show again, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Hey, man, for all you bitch-ass Giant fans, nigga, we bring in the motherfucking heater, nigga, so fuck that shit if you want, nigga.
All right, man.
For real. All right, man, catch you later, dog.
All right. And that's been Fantasy Football with Mclovin, and that was a special shout-out to Pat's dad.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you next week.